Okay, so this is thumbnail 2 of our thumbnail series in an effort for beginners to learn how to use Photoshop. We have some cool techniques. Let's go ahead and get started. First of all, this is the inspiration. So let's go ahead and bring this over. Let's go ahead and size it. Control T to resize it. Okay, so this is what we're working with. We're going to use a lot of shapes. We're going to do some step and repeat process with this, some masking, a little masking, and clipping mask. So got some cool elements in learning the basics, and these are just some basic things that we're gonna use. This is the model that I'm using. I had two to choose from. Let's bring her in, and now I've already done the mask, so we can see that. Hold down Shift and select. You can see from the last episode, we've already done the mask. I'm going to go ahead and convert her to a smart object because I like this size, but I may resize her just to kind of match. In fact, let's do that. Let's go ahead and match her. Okay, now I converted it to a smart object because if you want to change the size of an image, the smart object, converting into a smart object, will preserve the pixels. It won't get pixelated. So it's a way of working non-destructively. So anytime you're changing an image and you think you're going to resize it, convert it to a smart object to keep it from being pixelated. Right. So there's number one, and then now we have our colors. Now the color wheel. When I first started this, I had one color scheme, but then because of her outfit, I changed the color scheme. So let's bring that in. And here is the color scheme that I'm using for, and really an easy color scheme, 00333 for the gray. There's that red, and I pulled that red from this shirt. Here's that specific gray. This gray was pulled from her jacket. And of course the white. Didn't even really have to put that in there, but just in case. So there's our color scheme. So we have everything going for us. We can now begin to work. Number one, the black needs to be behind her. So let's go ahead and we're going to move this up to the top. We're going to move this up to the top. And we may make this 50% just so we can see. But right now we'll turn it off. Okay. Start another layer. Let me put my colors back here, and shortcut is I for the eyedropper tool. Paint black. Shortcut to fill a layer is Alt backspace. That fills the layer, and we need a new layer because we want the red, and we're gonna go eyedropper tool, Alt backspace. There's the red. Okay, so we want the red to be over here, so let's go ahead and bring our template up. I'm going to use the pen tool so I can get an accurate So if I hold down the control, I can move the mark. Okay, and then just continue with the pen tool. Okay, so now that I have that set, right click, make a selection. The feather radius is 0, new selection, and we're going to select our red canvas and we are going to hit the mask. Let's turn that off. Now you can see that there's a way I could have reversed it, but I'm just going to hit Control I. I'm going to highlight the mask, Control I to invert it. Okay. So now we have our mask here, and let's look at what shapes do we want to go with next. So we have these shapes here, and there's a couple of ways of creating those. One way I thought about was simply, let's just make, and we've selected our rectangle tool. We're going to make sure we have it on shape. We're not going to fill it, but let's just go with a white. And for right now, we'll go with 5. All right. So we'll tap it, and all I have to do is click the canvas, and what it'll do is it'll bring this up. I don't want any radius on the corners. I want sharp corners, and we'll start off with 50. Okay. Let's move it to the top so we can see it. All right. And you can see it's smaller, but I'm going to turn my canvas off. What I want to do is make sure that where I place this is on this edge. So it's on that edge. I will make it a slightly larger, so let's go ahead and select it. If you hold down the shift key, you'll maintain the you'll lock the ratio. So if I don't hold down the shift key, you can see I can kind of move it around, but holding down the shift key locks the ratio. All right. Now I want to rotate it, but I don't want to rotate it from, if I go Control T to transform, if I rotate now, you can see it rotates from the center. That's because this is where the anchor is, and the anchor determines the sizing, the scaling, and the rotation from the point of rotation, or let's call it a pivot point. This is your pivot point. So we're going to move our pivot point to this corner and then rotate, and you can see we're rotating around that anchor. So let's put it here. All right. All right. So now we need a line tool, and we'll start with 5 pixels. Oh. Okay. So we have a line tool. Let's mark out, let's make this one, and I want to match this line here. So okay. All right. So we'll go ahead and move it here. And we just want to make sure this looks even all the way up. Okay. So I have the move tool selected. I'm going to press down on the Alt to create a duplicate. And move it here. And I'm going to let's select the shape. I'm going to make this slightly smaller. Let's go to 4. Press V so I can move it. All right. Press hold the Alt, move it over here. And that looks good. Okay. Okay. So that looks good. All right, I'm satisfied with that. We'll talk about the color later. We'll look into that. I'm going to do a Control G to group everything. I need a second one, so I'm going to do Control J to create a second one. And Control T to move it over to about right here. And then I need a third one, so I'm going to do a Control J, move the third one. Oops. Control T to take the whole group, move it, rotate it. Now this one was much bigger, so we're going to have to do a couple of things. We're going to resize it. But because of the resizing, we also have to go in and resize the shape. So we're going to make that 15. And we'll make these 12, so I can do it here as well. Press V and let's get this, make sure the corners are okay. And we don't see that one, so that's fine. Okay. All right. Now, of course, these are not the right colors, so I think what I'm going to do is keep this one white. I'm going to make these two the dark gray, I believe. Let's go ahead and do that. So I can do all of this at one time. It's the reason why I didn't merge them, why I didn't pixelate them, because I can come here, press and hold, and then I just come over here, dark gray, and we'll do the and we'll do the same thing with the first one. Let's just take this one, make it dark gray. Okay. Now, of course, we need to move these behind the subject, so we'll highlight all three and move them below her. Okay. All right. Now, for the ellipse, this dot grid, let's go ahead and we'll make the dot grid. We'll start off with just that color. It doesn't make a difference. we're going to pick the elliptical tool, and we'll make it, let's say, 4. Okay. So you can see they're smaller than that, but we're using a stroke. What we want is a fill. Okay. So you can see it's much smaller when you do that. So I'm going to highlight this. We need 4 of them. I'm on the move to tool just like I did before. I'm going to hold down Alt and drag to create a duplicate. Drag to create a duplicate, and then drag to create a duplicate. Okay. So those are my 4, and then I'm going to come up here and transform it. So I'm going to make sure they're all centered, and then make sure they're evenly distributed. Okay. All right. So now that I have that, I am going to merge the shapes. So all 4 shapes are now in one layer. We can create a duplicate of it by Control J to create a duplicate. Control T to transform, and we are going to then move it (16mm) and press enter. So now that we've done that, if you were to go to Edit, Transform Path, you can see we have Shift Control T to transform again. So let's do that. Shift Control T. You can see it transformed that layer again. So it moved it over another 16mm. But that's not what we want. We want another row added to the rows that we have. So we're going to do the Shift Control Alt T, and that will give us another row. This is the step and repeat method in Photoshop. So Control, Shift, Alt, and T, and we have a total of 10 rows. So now I have 4. So I'm going to just press T again until I get all 10 rows. And again, I'm going to take these 2 rows, I'm going to merge the shapes, make it easy for myself. All right, and we move it right here, and that's it. Okay, so we know we have 2 of those, so I'm just hit Control J. Control T and move the second row down here, and that row is there, that row is there. And again, we'll talk about the colors. I think I'm going to go with black. And come here and go with black. All right, let's hide that. Okay. Yeah, I'm satisfied with that. Okay. So most of the elements are done. The only thing we have to do now is we have our $500, so we can just come in and take our rectangle tool, and we'll draw right over. So let me Control Z. So right now, if we come up here, I think I had it on path, and that's why I was doing that. So I had it on path, and that's why we got that. We don't want the path. What we want is for the rectangle tool to be on shape, and we want to fill black. We want the stroke none. And just holding everything from the last time, so we don't want this. And the other thing that's happening is that I'm going to hit this gear wheel and I'm going to turn off from center. Okay, so turning off from center allows me to just draw it the way I want. Okay, all right, so, and we'll take this all the way to the edge. Okay, so we have that. We have our text. Right now we'll make all the text white. Now you can see a difference here. It's using the shape to align the text. If I'm out here, it's kind of a free form. So if I were to take this and then put the $500, okay, it's using this shape as the alignment. And let's see here, we want let's see, so we're going to center, and we can all right. The only thing with this is that I still want this 500 to be in the center of this box. And just as before, we're gonna use the marquee tool, come to move, and now we can center start that over again. Okay, so we have our shape, and now what I'm going to do is put in the text. I'm just going to put in the 500. We'll move it here, and one of the things, let's turn this off. One of the issues again with when you're dealing with the font is aligning it with shapes. So I typically will come here, or I could hold down the control key and then click on the shape, go back to the font and have it on move, and then center it, and it was centered pretty good. So if I were to, all right, so now that's centered. All right, the next fonts, we're going to say, oh, what does it say? It says per day easy way. All right. All right. Per day easy way. Okay. we are going to line the 3 of these up. Okay. All right. So per day, the easy way, I think there's a little bit bigger than what I have here. If we wanted to, we could take this text and simply work with the characters. So this, we can make it 160%. Bring it in closer. That's a little too close. Maybe -50. All right. So -50, maybe 165. All right. All right. So that's close. Close enough, I think. All right. Easy way again. Same thing. We will go 165%. And then we come here -25. All right. Turn that off. Okay. Now the only thing, she's looking the wrong way. I want her. So I'm going to go Control T, and I'm going to a horizontal. I have her flip there, so she's actually looking in. This here, it's aligned. All of these are aligned here. I'm kind of want to do it this way. Okay. All right. Okay. The only thing left to do is the border. So let's get that. Now, a couple of ways I'm thinking about doing this. I'm going to go ahead and remove that. I no longer need it. All right, I don't know what that is. All right. A couple of ways I can do this. I can make a stamp of all of this by highlighting everything, Control Shift Alt E. That creates a stamp. Okay, so the only thing left to do is to make the border. All right. So what I'm going to do is I am going to select the rectangle tool. I'm going to make sure it's a path. I'm going to go 20 pixels, and I'm just going to click right here in the center. And what I want is 1250 by 690, because I want a 15 pixel border around the entire thing. So I'm going to go 15 times 2 is 30. So I'm subtracting 30 from the 1280 width and 30 from the 720 height. We're going to give a radius of 32 from center, hit enter, and there is our border. Now what we can do, I can make this a selection now. So I'm going to go to the pen tool, select the path, go new selection, radius is 0, and now we have our marching ants. Let me see something here. That should not be there. All right. Make a selection. There's our marching ants, and then go solid color. We want white. Something went wrong, and I think I know what happened. I think I was selected on these here. So what I have to do is, let me get a new layer so I can get off of those shapes. Okay, so let's do that again. Select the shape, make sure it's on path, go right to the center, and again we want the 1250 by 690, 32 radius from center, hit enter, and now we have our path. Now a couple of ways we can go ahead and do this. We have our path. We can come over here to path and just control and select, and it'll turn it into marching ants. Come back over to layers, select solid color and white, and you can see the mask is on the outside. All we have to do is select the mask, do Control I, and we have the border. And we are done. Let's build, guys. I'm going to clear the guides, Control 0, and here is the thumbnail.